So, guys, I really appreciate that you're here. Thank you very much. It's kind of a little bit competition situation here, having those parallel tracks and, you know, two women speaking about blockchain and all this stuff. It's quite unusual, right? So I feel very privileged and really thank you for being here.
No, we have the queen.
Yes. So let me tell you a little bit what we are doing. Smart VALOR, basically who we are, maybe first, if that's going to work. Yeah. So my name is Olga Feldmeier. I've been in banking and finance all my life. Started actually with BCG, you know, that was quite fun. Then went on working for banks. That was much less fun. And we've been always, and recently I was engaged for XAPO and was in charge of regulation, breaking through regulatory hurdles here in Switzerland, right? And with XAPO, you probably heard Ted Rogers speaking earlier on the other stage. It was actually quite funny because back then in 2015, we were trying actually to sell exactly that, the secure custody to institutional clients, but we were so early. There was no interest in this business model in what we were selling, and that was like absolutely dead end back then. And it's amazing to see how this changed. And this taught me that being early is not always bad. And I think this is the same that we are in the same situation today. So maybe this is how somebody knows me. Some, you know, reporters picked that story up and said, Bitcoin Queen of Switzerland. I actually think it's not really appropriate because, you know, we are all about decentralization, anti-establishment and so on, right? So, you know, from this free society to royalty, or for me personally, from Soviet Union to royalties, it's a long way, right? So, where to move that? Here. So we are basically today a team of 15 people working on this project, mostly on technology side. We are 4 co-founders. My background is in banking and regulation. Other guys, some more from technical background. Julian Bringer recently joined us as a chief of security and cryptography. It's actually great to see that experts, top experts in technology such as security and cryptography are leaving their jobs to join companies like us to bootstrap this innovation. It's amazing. So what we're building, it's actually interesting. Some people say it's a crypto bank. I say it's a decentralized marketplace for tokenized alternative investments. Which one do you like more? Crypto bank? Who is for crypto bank? I'm not going to rename it.
It's too long, Olga.
I know, but it's to the point. No, it's funny because, look, guys, you know what's going on today. Think about it. The largest hotel chain has no hotels, right? Airbnb. The largest taxi company has no taxi, no cars, right? And I truly believe the largest bank is going to have no assets. Right? The future of the bank is going to be completely different organizational setup. I believe it's going to be Amazon. I believe it's going to be marketplace, right? And what we're building just a very specialized niche marketplace in tokenized alternative investment. But as a model, you know, decentralized distributed value creation in financial services. Like, this is really the future. So maybe to give you a little bit more details on this one. So alternative investment is actually industry, you know, those are all investment opportunities outside of equity, debt, or cash products, right? So in first line, it's private equity, venture capital, you know, infrastructure, private real estate, and so on. It's around 7 trillion big industry, right, that suffers from actually, you know, more institutional kind of, you know, access. It's huge stakes. If you want to invest in private equity, you know, you need to have a lot of money, right? And it's quite a liquid investments in its kind. Especially interesting, I think, for tokenization, and I probably don't need to explain what tokenization is, right? You guys know. It's basically mirroring legal contract of owning some security or some physical asset in a token. Token that lives on the blockchain that, can be, which ownership can be transferred on the blockchain and settled there, right? So it's more efficient market. It's actually the future of any stock exchange, I believe, right? It's just for stock exchanges, for large, they started to work on that. It's for them very difficult to switch from the legacy system to completely new world. But for us, starting from the grassroots, right, creating those smaller marketplaces, this is where the innovation will start. Of course, you can think about tokenization of anything. You can tokenize this nice object if you think this is valuable. You can create 1,000 token backed by this, or better, Bitcoin Queen, and sell it in 1,000 tokens, right? And what this allows is a fractional ownership, right? Fractional ownership creates many participants create more liquidity in the market. Token as such have an instant settlement and execution, not those 2-3 days when I buy Apple share, right? It's really instant. And of course, this is very connected to ledgers where ownership is recorded, right? This is a bigger topic in the equity space. But there are different solutions coming up, right? So our focus is on tokenizing, well, basically, we are not tokenizing it, right? You guys are tokenized, and you come to sell it on our Amazon, right? We are just a marketplace. But marketplace for alternative investments being venture capital, tokenized venture capital, this is already happening, right? So the first application was blockchain capital, as probably most of you know. And there are more and more people looking into the space. Why? Because this token, it's just more liquid and more accessible, right? It's smaller, you can sell and buy it. I'm not saying it's going to be just liquid, but it's going to be more liquid than the current state of Anteilsschein, for the limited partner stake, right? And the same is true, this is not happening yet, but the same is true for private equity industry. I think the tokenization of private equity, that's going to be like really big opportunity. And also, in all the different asset classes, real estate, you can tokenize a participation in a construction project, right? Why not? You have the advantage here is that with smart contracts, you can create a different kind of structuring, right? Carried interest. You can create complete, which are executed by code. So you create a very lean and efficient and cost-efficient infrastructure to create financial contracts. That's today all the future, right? But I think being early is not the worst thing you can do. So apart from alternative investments, of course, everybody is talking about ICO, and ICO, this is, kind of like the first form of tokenization today. And I think in terms of legal regulation, we are not there yet, but we're moving there. FINMA is going to issue a new regulation in 3 weeks. Liechtenstein is working on this. So I think we are very well placed to be here and start already to prepare and build infrastructure. So when the regulation comes, we are ready to move forward. Here we are talking about tokenized equity in private companies. And of course, all this needs to be backed by security and secure custody for those tokenized objects, right? For cryptographic objects that are representing this ownership. And that's of course a big deal. I learned how this was implemented and done in XAPO with this cold storage and multi-signature procedures, right? I was selling this to Swiss banks, and I think XAPO is actually one of the most reliable custodians today in the space, right? And it's, to be honest, I think Bitcoin is actually quite easier asset in terms of security than all the other assets like Ethereum and so on. Like, we cannot rebuild the same security that we can use for Bitcoin. So that's a challenge. But this challenge can be solved together. There are a lot of companies that are working on different great approaches, and we're going to collaborate with them. So Of course, it's all about regulation, so we're going to go through the whole process of applying for multilateral trading facility to enable exchange. Banking Light is coming up in Liechtenstein and in Switzerland. It's going to be a huge opportunity. Actually, you don't need banking license for marketplace, but if you're going to be tokenized, on token specialized marketplace, you'd better not rely on any traditional banks. Right? That's experience I've made. So, and with that, maybe I think this is it. Just my last point, people who are coming now, joining this industry, new people, when they look at us, they look at us like, oh, the bubble, and this is crazy, what's going on, ICOs, right? I think it's the very beginning, right? We're just tipping the top of the huge thing, and the reality is, those are startups, tokenized company. It's real assets on the blockchain. Thank you so much.